if the love of your life were slipping away, not because of betrayal, but because your pockets were empty. In Umwagu village, a young man named Emeka was willing to risk his soul just to marry Adaora, the woman his heart beat for. But in his search for wealth, he stumbled into a dangerous game of secrets, greed, and betrayal. This is not just a love story. It's a lesson about patience, the traps of desperation, and how envy can destroy even the strongest friendships. So sit back, because this story will make you question what you'd be willing to sacrifice for love. In Umwagu village, love had no boundaries except the ones society built. Emeka was a young man with little more than the sweat on his brow and the dreams in his heart. Adaora was the village's beloved teacher, gentle, beautiful, and from one of the richest families in the community. Against all odds, they were deeply in love. But there was one problem. Adaora's parents wanted her to marry wealth, not love. One sunny afternoon, Adaora sat outside her church reading a novel, waiting for her parents. Emeka spotted her and her face lit up. Adaora, my love, I've missed you. Emeka, me too. I just wish I had the money to take you away from your father's house. Adaora, don't worry. God will provide. Before their hands could touch, Adaora's parents stormed over. Mrs. Nwankwo, Emeka, what are you doing with my daughter? You poor boy. Get out of here. Mr. Nwankwo, Adaora, I warned you. Let's go. They dragged her away, leaving Emeka standing there humiliated. Best friend get home? Emeka poured his heart out to Kingsley. Kingsley shook his head. Kingsley, so you collected all that insult because of money? My guy, I have an idea. Let's go to a native doctor and make money fast. Emeka, no, Kingsley. God will bless me in his time. Life in Umwagu village was not easy for Emeka, and his job at Mr. Ahai's building material shop was far from a dream. Every morning, before the sun even peeked over the palm trees, Emeka would wake up, fetch water from the stream, quickly eat a small piece of bread or leftover gallery, and walk over 3 kilometers to the shop. When he arrived, Mr. Ajayi, a stout, middle-aged man with a permanent frown, would already be sitting on his wooden chair, counting money as if he feared someone might steal the air around him. Emeka's work was physically exhausting. He carried heavy bags of cement on his back until his shoulders ached. His palms became rough and calloused from lifting iron rods, and dust from the cement often clung to his skin like a second coat. Sometimes he worked under the scorching afternoon sun, sweating until his shirt was soaked through, yet there was no appreciation, no encouragement, and certainly no financial reward. The pay? A meager amount that could barely feed him for 2 weeks, let alone help him save for the future. He didn't just work hard, he worked beyond his duty. If a customer needed urgent supplies at night, Mr. Ajayi would send Emeka to deliver them, even if it meant walking down dark, lonely roads. But when Emeka fell sick from the strain, Mr. Ajayi never offered a day off or any help. One day, when the burden became too much, Emeka gathered his courage. Emeka, sir, the money you're paying me is too small. If possible, I would like you to increase it. Mr. Ajayi, slamming his ledger shut. Increase? My friend, if you don't like the pay, leave. Do you know how hard I worked to get this money? The words cut deep. Emeka apologized quietly, but inside his chest burned. He had given so much to this job, yet it was clear his future could not be built in Mr. Ajayi's shop. Adding to the pain, his co-workers were not much better. Some mocked him for dreaming of a better life, calling him big man way no get big pocket. And each time he walked home with aching muscles, passing by the houses of the wealthy men in the village, he couldn't help but imagine how different life would be if he had the kind of money Adaora's parents wanted in a son-in-law. It was during these long, tiring days that the seed of desperation began to grow, and Kingsley's tempting words about quick money started to echo in his mind. Not long after that heated conversation with Mr. Ajayi, Emeka and Kingsley received an invitation to a wedding in the village. It was the marriage of Neka, the daughter of one of the wealthiest cocoa traders in Umwagu. The whole community was buzzing with excitement. Colorful canopies stretched across the compound. High-life music floated through the air, and the scent of spicy jollof and grilled meat made stomachs rumble even from a distance. Emeka had borrowed a neatly pressed shirt from his neighbor and polished his worn-out shoes until they almost shone. Kingsley, ever the showman, wore a bright yellow outfit that looked expensive, but was stitched by a local tailor. They arrived together, smiling, trying to blend in, but the difference between the rich guests and the poor ones was impossible to ignore. At the far end of the compound, under a large decorated canopy with golden ribbons, sat the wealthy guest traders, businessmen, local chiefs. They laughed loudly, fanned themselves with silk hand fans, and sipped cold drinks served by waitresses in matching uniforms. Far from them, near the dusty edge of the compound, sat the common people. Their chairs were mismatched plastic seats, some cracked at the edges. The sun was beating down on their canopy, making everyone sweat. Emeka and Kingsley were led straight to this section. At first, they ignored the difference, focusing on the joy of the wedding. But soon the waitresses began to serve food, and that's when the insult began. Instead of serving both sections equally, the waitresses went directly to the rich guests first. Large plates of steaming rice, fried chicken, goat meat pepper soup, and chilled bottled drinks were placed before them. When they passed the poor section, they simply smiled politely and moved on without serving anything. Emeka felt his stomach tighten. Not just from hunger, but from the shame of being treated as if he didn't matter. He whispered to Kingsley, "Emeka, so because we're not rich, we're invisible?" Kingsley, "Invisible? My brother, this is worse than invisibility. This is humiliation." After waiting for what felt like forever, one waitress carrying a tray of food passed by again, heading straight toward the rich side. Kingsley, unable to take the insult any longer, stood up and blocked her path. Kingsley, "Madam, drop one plate here. We've been sitting since morning." Waitress, "Sir, this food is for the high table guests. Yours will come later." Her tone was polite but firm, and her eyes flickered with that unspoken message. "You don't belong here." Kingsley's face darkened. Without warning, he grabbed the tray from her hands. The waitress tried to pull it back, but in the struggle, a large plate slipped, spilling rice, stew, and chicken onto the dusty ground. Gasps erupted around them. Within seconds, voices rose, accusations flew, and the joyful wedding atmosphere turned chaotic. Some people rushed to separate them. Others started shouting insults. The music stopped. The MC's voice cracked in confusion, and soon guests began leaving. As they walked away from the compound, Emeka felt both angry and ashamed. Emeka, "Kingsley, you shouldn't have done that. Now the whole village will talk." Kingsley, "Talk? Let them talk. At least they won't say we sat there like hungry dogs while the rich feasted." But deep down, Emeka knew the humiliation of that day cut deeper than the fight. It reminded him that in this village, without money, even love wasn't enough. And that bitter reminder planted yet another seed, the thought that maybe Kingsley's idea of fast money wasn't so far-fetched after all. It had been 2 weeks since the wedding incident, but the shame still clung to Emeka like the dust on his old shoes. Each time he remembered the laughter of the wealthy guests and the way the waitress looked at him. His chest burned with quiet anger. He had hoped Adaora would be his comfort, the one person who would still see him as a man worth standing beside. But even here, life was ready to test him again. Before, when Emeka used to visit Adeora's parents' home as a friend, her mother would greet him with a warm smile and a plate of her famous yam porridge. Her father would invite him to sit, asking about his work and plans for the future. But now, the smiles were gone. The conversations were short. And whenever Emeka mentioned marriage, her father would quickly change the topic, while her mother would busy herself with chores instead of answering. Did Emeka follow Kingsley's dangerous advice? Or did he walk away, only to lose Adeora forever? The answer lies in what happened next, a night that would change the course of his life in ways he could never undo. Watch for part 2. And if you don't want to miss it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because this story is just getting started.